Huananzhi X99-TF-Q motherboard is a cheaper version of a well-known Huananzhi X99-TF because it is using desktop B85 or Q87 chipset. Now I'm going to unbox this motherboard because it has arrived to me for testing. As you can see, the motherboard came to me well packed with a few layers of bubble wrap. The box itself is a typical Huananzhi packaging with a huge box for no good reason, but maybe for the safety it's good. The print is also screamy and flashy, but it doesn't really change the motherboard's performance. Inside the box we are getting the motherboard itself, and let's see what's else. So a part of the motherboard inside the box we have Huananzhi manual, which is right now actually translated into English. First it goes with the Chinese version and then comes the English version. Interestingly enough, this manual is actually providing some useful information about the motherboard, so if you are looking for it, it's there. Here we have the motherboard pinout and layouts, everything you might need to know about your motherboard. All pins for the front panel, fan headers and USB headers and the audio headers. Then installation guide for CPUs, M.2s. Interestingly, here they are using not LJ2011 CPU, but some LJ1155 or 1151 CPU. RAM installation guide and SATA connections guide. Some information about the drivers. Oh, they actually claim Windows 11 support. Then we have one SATA cable, another SATA cable. Then we have some extra screws. These big ones are to mount this bracket to install clip-on CPU coolers, and these small ones are to install motherboard into the chassis, and a pack of cheap thermal paste. Then we're also getting a 3-year warranty card from Huananzhi. It is valid in China, but shipping cost back to China is rather expensive, so kinda pointless in our case. Now it's time to look at the motherboard itself. The same as Huananzhi X99-TF, TF-Q supports DDR3 and DDR4 memory, and we are also getting these yellow stickers, which are providing information of what CPUs can be used with the DDR3 memory. This collection is actually not full here because E5-2666 also works with the DDR3 memory. Nevertheless, the gray slots are for DDR3, the black slots for DDR4, and you cannot combine this memory together even if your CPU supports DDR3 and DDR4. What's annoying with these yellow stickers is that sometimes some pieces of these stickers are left in the memory slots and you need to figure out how to take them out. For example, here you can see a small piece. In this case, it's not a very big deal because it is not in the memory slot itself, but in the past I had problems when some pieces were straight in the memory slots and I had struggles to safely take it out without bending the pins. Anyway, the motherboard itself looks basically just like a Huananzhi X99-TF, but it has fewer SATA 3 ports, and probably some of these are SATA 2, some of these are SATA 3, and obviously we're gonna get less USB 3.0 ports, or actually we're getting 4 USB 3.0 ports. I wonder how they made it. And we have 4 USB 2 ports, PS2 ports, 7.1 audio, and the LAN port. I'm not sure if it is visible on the camera, but this plastic I/O shield is slightly not aligned with the actual I/O. Everything is still outside and visible, so should be possible to connect everything. Just like Huananzhi X99-TF, this one has 3 PCI Express X16 slots. We have 2 M.2 slots for SSD drives, 1 for SATA, 1 for NVMe SSDs, and 1 M.2 slot for the Wi-Fi expansion cards. At the moment, I can't say much about the VRAM, but it doesn't seem to be as cheap as we find on the cheap Machinist X99 boards, so there is a hope that we will get at least semi-decent VRAM, even though the motherboard price is reduced because of the desktop chipset. Here is a 4-pin fan header for the CPU, 3-pin fan header for the chassis fans, one more 3-pin fan header, And that's it. No, sorry, here is one extra 3-pin fan header, and of course here we have all the connectors for the front panel as well as 2 buttons and the annoying speaker and the place for the CMOS battery. The chipset is located under this heatsink, and let me try to find the BIOS chip. X99TF has the BIOS chip located right under this heatsink, and yes, we are having the same issue. The BIOS chip is located over there, so if you would want to read or write BIOS with a CH341A or a similar programmer, you would have to remove this heatsink to be able to get access to the BIOS chip. Now it's time to open the CPU socket and see if we have any bent pins or any damages. This CPU socket seems to be undamaged. I don't see any problems over there. Everything seems to be straight and not a single missing pin. So I hope the motherboard works just fine and I will be able to test it. If you're interested to see full detailed review of Huananzhi X99-TF-Q motherboard, then follow me on the main channel. I'm also expecting Xeon E5-2696 V3 CPU for benchmarking. That might be interesting for you as well. Bye for now.